Tuesday wasn't a presidential election, but there was still plenty of important races on the ballot and a fair share of excitement over some of the results. Let's look back at Tuesday and look ahead to next year's midterms with 11Alive Zach Merchant. Always joining us here, with co-host of the Georgia Vote. Good to see you, my friend.
Chesley, it is always good to see you. It feels like Friday morning has officially started for me when I get to hang out with you and everybody who watches The Take.
I feel like you were running for something. Congratulations.
I'll take the handshake, but I certainly am not running for anything. But boy, we had a very interesting Tuesday night here in Georgia, Chesley.
Absolutely. What was the big takeaways from that?
I think a couple things, and there's some trend line here too, a broad one that I think just as a local journalist we should highlight right off the bat. There is this theme where Georgia politics, they bubble up into the national spotlight sometimes, and then there's no shade to our national counterparts. They do good work, but I think they sometimes forget how intriguing our politics are. And then something interesting happens again, and I wake up and I'm reading the national coverage, and I'm seeing stories about local utility board races, like the Public Service Commission here in Georgia. We've been talking about this, Chesley, you and I, just on the show for 3-4 weeks now about how interesting they're going to be, and they turned out to be exactly that. Tuesday night, there were two incumbent Republicans on the Public Service Commission up for re-election. That Public Service Commission is the utility board. They regulate utilities here in Georgia, probably most notably, most prominently, they regulate power rates here in Georgia. So if you get a power bill, they play a role in your life. Two Democrats lined up to challenge them. Those Democrats won, flipped two long-held Republican seats, and they did it, Chesley, by a wider margin than a lot of people thought they would.
Is that, you think, a trend that would be ongoing?
Chesley, it's almost like you have been asking the same question that everybody wants to know right now. Let's talk about the numbers and then let's talk about the trends. First off, we had about 1.5 million ballots cast in these statewide Public Service Commission races on Tuesday night. That's a lot. I got a text early in the evening from a Republican operative saying, this is almost double what we were expecting, at least in terms of day of turnout. Usually Republican voters, Republican operatives will say kind of ride to the rescue on day of voting. Democrats tend to vote earlier. But in this case, there were a lot of Democrats who voted day of as well. So big turnout. About 5 million people voted in November of 2024, so much more in a presidential year, an on-cycle year, but still a lot of votes. There are two trend lines. And they're kind of going in different directions depending on who you ask, right, in politics. If you ask a Democrat, they're spreading the message loud and far as they can. They're saying, look at this, we've got momentum, we're going into the 2026 midterms. They really want to wring every ounce of momentum narrative building out of this.
Absolutely.
Republicans, on the other hand, they're pointing to things that they say kind of tamp down on this. They say, look, it's off cycle. There were some tricky dynamics where a lot of municipal races were on the ballot, so you get people in more urban areas in Georgia, our cities that tend to lean blue. They're going to vote for mayor, they're going to vote for city council, and then they look down the ballot and they say, okay, who's the other Democrat here? There's going to be a lot of storytelling on both kind of points going into 2026, but there is real interest here.
Especially in the governor's race. How are they reacting?
It was very interesting. So the AJC held, they call it their show, Politically Georgia. They have a newsletter, they have the podcast, and they're frequent guests on the Georgia Vote, guest panelists. They had a Politically Georgia forum, a candidate forum, Wednesday night, so 24 hours after this big election night. Two Republicans were there, Chris Carr, Brad Raffensperger, both running for governor, and 4 Democrats running for governor. We talked to everybody except Raffensperger right after they cleared the stage there, so we got to get almost a little snap poll of them for ourselves. What are their reactions, early thoughts? Everybody, Chris Carr, the Republican we talked to, all 4 of the Democrats, all of them immediately started talking about affordability. People look at this PSC race as an affordability race. People worried about power prices, worried about their bills. In a world where there's not much Republicans and Democrats often agree on, in public at least, affordability seems to be the name of the game for everybody right now.
You're going to be doing that on the Georgia Vote. There was some shots thrown at each other there. I'm just going to pump up the excitement for the show. You definitely want to stay tuned for that.
Yeah, we're in some ways this is kind of the official starting gun of the real focus, the almost magnifying glass being on these 2026 races now. Now, obviously, we've had this big field of candidates for some time in the race, but there's kind of the interest is also in the 2025 races. People are looking ahead at 2026. 2025 is basically done, save for a couple municipal runoffs. 2026 is on. We're starting to see some early jabs come out inside the Democratic primary. We're seeing some coming out in the Republican side as well a little bit, and we're seeing it on the Senate side as well on the Republican side. kind of has to be at some point too. We've been seeing some polling numbers, Chesley. If you're interested, we can chat about those for a second. So the AJC released this poll, and of Democratic likely primary voters, they had former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms at 40% support. In second place was former DeKalb CEO Michael Thurmond at 11%. Former Lieutenant Governor, who was a Republican when he did it, now he's a Democrat running for governor, Jeff Duncan, in third place at 5%. Former State Senator Jason Estevez at 3%. So Keisha Lance Bottoms out to a very early lead, and a pretty sizable one in this race. But here's the other number you got to remember: 40% of voters said they were undecided. So there's a lot of people to capture, to persuade. But if you're down at maybe the lower tier of that early poll numbers, it's a snapshot in time. It's not a 5-alarm fire by any means. This is still so early. We don't want to overhype the point of a poll. But what they do at this early stage sometimes is start to get campaigns thinking, okay, what do I need to do to differentiate? What do I need to do to change the narrative? What do I need to do to start putting some distance between myself and my competitors? We saw one candidate in particular throw a couple early jabs at some of his fellow Democratic primary candidates in competition following that AJC candidate form. And more will be coming. We're going to see this start to get more intense as the months go by.
We got a little more time here left. I want to ask you about what else is coming up on the Georgia vote for people to watch.
Man, I'm running out of cliches, but it is another full show. We have so much going on, and the overlay on all of this, we're talking about obviously the statewide PSC race. We're having this conversation about how it maybe portends for what is to come in 2026. We are sitting right now, as of 9:39 on Friday morning, while a government shutdown, record-setting shutdown, is still happening. We talked to Cabinet Secretary, Small Business Administrator Kelly Loeffler. She's in the Trump cabinet. Talked to her about the shutdown. Hear what she says coming up this Sunday.
My friend, thanks so much for joining us.
Appreciate it.
And congratulations again on your big win.
Very funny, very funny. This is the win, being here with you.
You can watch Georgia Vote with Zach Merchant and Faith Jesse Sunday morning at 11 o'clock right here on 11 Live Plus. Don't